The behavior that object dependencies are shared can be changed through configuration on a class-by-class basis. Here in this little example module, there are two classes. A dependent, which takes an instance of dependency as a constructor argument. And here is the dependency. As discussed in the previous video, all dependent objects will share an instance of dependency. We can configure the ObjectManager to create a new, fresh dependency instance each time it is required as a constructor argument. To do this, we have to create an etc.di.xml configuration file. This file contains all the ObjectManager configuration. Since it is a very common file, I suggest you go ahead and create a file template in your editor of choice for it right away. This is how my di.xml template looks. Pause the video now and resume it after you have a di.xml file template. Okay, now let's add the configuration to disable dependency being a shared object. Magento uses the term type to refer to either a PHP class or a PHP interface. So to indicate a class should not be shared, we have to specify the following configuration. Type, the name that will be our class name, and then shared false. So the class name, I'll copy a reference to it by right-clicking on the class name and selecting that option, copy reference, and then I'll paste it into the name field here. Less chance for typos that way. Now we have to clean the configuration cache so the change to the config takes effect. Okay, and now let's run the dev console. So my plan now is to create two instances of dependent of this class here, right? So once I have those two instances, I want to compare if the injected dependency really are separate instances now. So I'll copy a reference to the dependent class and I'll use a di create. This will be my first dependent instance. This will be my second dependent instance. And now let's compare if the injected dependency instances are different. And they are different. Great. So this example is very contrived, but hopefully still educational. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. Please note that this configuration option, shared false, is not used a lot outside of the framework base configuration. I do believe it's still important to know about it though, because, well, sooner or later everybody encounters a shared type. I feel the use of shared equals false, the i.xml configuration, should generally be avoided, because the problem with it is that it introduces a pretty surprising change to how the ObjectManager behaves. Most developers usually assume any injected instances are shared, and rightfully so, because almost always that is the case. So, if a new instance is required by some code, an object factory should be injected instead of a non-shared instance. Object factories will be covered in one of the next videos.